Alright, so there is a post on the Minecraft subreddit which kinda explains some big problems with the current terrain generation. So let's see what this is about. I feel unhappy trying to create new worlds in modern terrain generation. They all seem like this. And as you can see in this image, we got endless plains, hills, holes, uneven terrain, open caves to mineshaft, terribly generated village, biggest cherry mountain ever, endless ocean, and of course, the dreaded acacia. It feels like 9 out of 10 worlds I generate are these exact same endless plains/forests with mounds and cave holes everywhere, with these huge mountains everywhere. It feels a lot harder to find a nice, small, and flat area to start. I'm genuinely not trying to be like all Minecraft better for nostalgic reasons. I feel like when I load into earlier terrain gen versions, they have naturally forming smaller, flatter areas that look like you could envision a house, like the kind seen in a village. Things now feel generated to be large scale, so things will be built on an even larger scale. I cannot envision just a house because it's dominated by the area and feels out of place out in the open of all this space. That's why I sort of prefer the steeper cliffs of old to the slow rolling hilly mountains of new. Everything feels so incredibly far apart. Rivers are so wide, mountains so tall, and biomes just seem to stretch on infinitely. I keep wanting to go back into the game and experience the new updates, but every time I make a new world and it looks exactly like this, I feel discouraged. Now, DOP made some very good points, and personally, I feel the same, especially the plains, because they have holes everywhere and the uneven terrain is absolutely horrible. But let's see what the community thinks about this as well. Oceans aren't nearly as endless as represented here, but I agree that the plains, being so hilly, is a massive oversight and mountains generation is a bit too common. Villages would be fine if they didn't suffer from the former. I found the villages, they get abandoned so quick or taken over by zombies, turning everyone into zombie villagers. You can even build a wall around the village without the villagers disappearing overnight. I never had this issue before recent updates. I just want different land levels. I want there to be mountains with lakes, elevated plains that have river systems flow through them, and some have proper waterfalls. I hate how all rivers are at sea level. Rivers would be dope. I'm sure Mojang is doing their best, and honestly, after coming back to the game after like 7 years, I'm super impressed with how much the world changed. Terribly generated village? OMG yes. Why is village generation so bad? Here's a village that looks completely normal from above on a map, but in practice, every building is embedded in a different part of a cliff and it's utterly impossible to navigate. If you think the oceans are endless, you should load up some really old versions. Prior to 1.7, you could spend hours crossing an ocean without finding so much of an island. It was crazy. Not to mention, the world is just one landmass now. Instead of the continents we had with the old world type, every ocean is really just a lake surrounded by this Pangea amalgamation. There aren't huge oceans that take days to cross anymore. It makes the world feel smaller. I agree on the village and endless water thing, not as much with the house thing, but that's because I usually build underground. But like every time I try to add on to an existing village, instead of enslaving them, it's like they always fall into some random cave, walk up a giant hill, and get stuck on a ledge, or all the houses are unable to be accessed. Like village generation has not taken the updates to the world well at all. I love finding little nooks and crannies to nestle a base into. Now the generation only seems to have endless rolling hills, huge dense forest, pockets of amplified that feel out of place, big ugly hollow mountains, and weird donut mountains of cherry groves. I wish the Giganto caves were less common. It feels like every single mountain is just a shell for an endlessly massive cave that spawned too high up. It seems to me that warm biomes are much rarer than the cold/temperate biomes in general. And when I do run into a warm biome, it's almost always the dreaded savanna. Usually to get my first piece of cactus, I either get it from the Wandering Trader or read it from an igloo before I'll find a desert biome. In the pre-1.18 world gen, jungles were rare and deserts were common. Now, I can go 100 blocks without finding a massive jungle, and I literally have to scour the earth for just a single desert. They really need to get rid of the slit cave generation. The super skinny, narrow caves are just annoying. At least make it so they don't interfere with surface generation, because most of the time they just mess up plains and mountains. Yeah, the flat areas are way too noisy. The amount of terraforming required is genuinely crazy. I hate how certain biomes generate near each other repeatedly. My base is in a mangrove swamp, and all there is for thousands of blocks is desert, badlands, savannas, and other mangrove. I have to travel so far for some variety. Honestly, I've been playing Legacy Edition a lot, and I've noticed this too. Villages are almost too common in Bedrock, biome sizes are way too big for my liking, incredibly hilly no matter where. I have got to say though, Endless Oceans isn't the worst thing in the game, and playing without the aquatic update feels like very caveman. So that made the oceans a lot better at least. Old Minecraft World Gen was fantastic. I don't get why it needed to make sense, go back to putting snow next to jungles, more random disconnected land masses in the air. Hard to navigate terrain is kinda one of the points of a game where you can edit the world. And it shouldn't just be in the nether and certain biomes. Yeah, besides the snowy mountains and caves, I never really got around to liking the newer terrain generation. I love a flat cherry grove. I don't want to have to build a world eater or mine the entire mountain by hand just to enjoy the biome specific colors. I think that something I hate about a lot of modern terrain generation is that even terrain features feel out of place now, like there are only a few templates for cherry mountains that it does not feel natural. Yeah, 1.18 was half-baked in retrospect, optimized for screenshots and for hype. I think it's more of a situation that all the feedback was extremely positive and all the minor issues got overlooked when they still had bigger problems to deal with, like the microbiome problem the snapshots had and getting the transitions to look good for old worlds. Now that we have had it for a while and we are used to it, its weaknesses are more clear. It's a shame that instead of still tweaking it and fixing it, they aren't touching it, and all the new biomes are just replacements of existing ones. I still prefer post 1.18 over pre 1.17, which was just horribly boring and dull everywhere other than Shattered Savannah. I agree with you, like, yeah, 1.18 terrain can be annoying to deal with, but I could never agree with the perspective that pre 1.18 terrain is better. It's so dull, plain, there's no variation in anything, every non-mountain biome feels like plains but colored differently. 1.18 plains for sure need to be actual plains rather than being oddly hills. I imagine changes to the world gen is the exact sort of stuff Mojang is holding back on until they fix the code, considering the whole reason we're currently in this era of small drops rather than big updates is because of all the flaws they found in the process of developing and making changes to the game during the Caves and Cliffs update. Hopefully they can fix those issues sooner than later, because I'm imagining updates involving world gen might be high on the priority when the time comes. So yeah, the community is not happy with the current world gen, because it's a bit repetitive and it has a lot of problems. Hopefully, after Mojang is done with fixing the code, they'll make some kind of new world gen algorithm and make the overworld a lot better. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.